My parents lied about Dad having stage 3 pancreatic cancer to trick me into giving them my $38,000 education fund for my sister's professional kitchen, but I found out the brand deal was fake and they spent everything, so I moved to England and 3 years later they got arrested for fraud. I, 26M, am writing this at 4 a.m. in Manchester. Can't sleep. Tomorrow marks 3 years since I left Boston and everything I knew behind. I keep thinking about what my parents did and how close I came to losing everything. My sister is Riley, 24F. We grew up in a house called Ashwood Heights in Boston. Our parents always had money for certain things but never for others. The pattern was obvious if you looked at it. Riley wanted to be a lifestyle blogger. She posted pictures of food and talked about becoming the next big thing on social media. Our parents bought her a $3,000 camera the same week I asked if they could help with my textbooks. They said I should use the library copies. When Riley got a C in basic math, they hired a tutor who came to the house twice a week. When I struggled with organic chemistry, my dad told me I should have picked an easier major. I studied biology at Boston University. I worked at the campus library 20 hours a week. I graduated with a 3.7 GPA. Riley dropped out after 2 years to focus on her blog full-time. Our parents threw her a party and called it a brave decision. My maternal grandparents died when I was 15. They left education funds for both of us. Riley spent hers on a trip to Thailand for content creation. She came back with 400 photos and 10 Instagram followers. My fund had $38,000 left when I was in my senior year. I planned to use it for medical school applications and my first-year tuition. My dad worked as a project manager for a construction company. My mom was a dental hygienist. They owned Ashwood Heights outright because my grandfather helped with the down payment decades ago. We weren't rich but we were comfortable. At least that's what I thought. 2 months before my graduation, my dad called me. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the library working on my thesis. He said he needed to talk about something serious. His voice sounded different. Quieter. He told me he had cancer. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. He said the doctors found it during a routine checkup. He said he needed treatment right away. I left the library and drove home. My mom was crying at the kitchen table. Riley was there too, holding Mom's hand. Dad sat in his chair looking smaller than usual. He explained that his insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment his doctor recommended. The treatment was at a clinic in New York. It cost $40,000 for the first round. My mom said they had $5,000 in savings. They were trying to figure out the rest. Dad looked at me and said he didn't want to ask but he had no choice. He said he knew about my education fund. He said he would pay me back as soon as the insurance sorted things out. He said the insurance company was just being difficult about pre-authorization. Riley started crying harder. She said she wished she hadn't spent her fund because now she could help. My mom put her hand on my shoulder and said family helps family. She said this was what my grandparents would have wanted. I sat there at that table for 2 hours while they explained the treatment timeline. Dad showed me pamphlets from the clinic. He showed me letters from his doctor. Everything looked legitimate. He said the first treatment was scheduled for 3 weeks from then. He needed the money transferred by the end of the month. I went back to my apartment and looked at my medical school plans. I had already been accepted to 2 programs. Both required a deposit by June. I had planned to use the fund to cover the deposit and the first semester. Without it, I would need to defer for a year and work full-time to save up. I called the fund administrator the next morning. I signed the paperwork to release the money to my dad's account. The transfer took 3 business days. My dad called me when it cleared and said I was saving his life. My mom left a pie on my apartment doorstep with a note that said, "Thank you." Riley posted on Instagram about how her brother was a hero. She tagged me. People I went to high school with commented about how brave our family was. Someone from my biology class saw it and asked me if I was okay. I said my dad would be fine. I deferred my medical school acceptance. I told them I had a family emergency. They said they would hold my spot for 1 year. I picked up extra shifts at the library. I started applying for full-time lab positions to save money faster. The first treatment was supposed to happen in May. I asked my dad if he wanted me to drive him to New York. He said no. He said my mom would go with him and I should focus on finals. I asked if I could at least take him to the appointment. He said the appointments were early in the morning and he didn't want to disrupt my schedule. May passed. June came. I graduated. My parents came to the ceremony. Dad looked fine. He wasn't pale. He wasn't thin. He ate 3 plates of food at the reception. I asked him how the treatment went. He said it was going well but the side effects weren't as bad as expected. He said he was lucky. I started my lab job in July. The pay was decent but not enough to save $40,000 in a year. I was living in a studio apartment and eating rice and canned soup most days. I kept telling myself it was temporary. In August, I stopped by Ashwood Heights to drop off some mail that came to my old address. No one answered the door. I used my key. The house was quiet. I walked toward the kitchen and heard voices. The kitchen was gone. The walls were knocked down. The cabinets were ripped out. There were workers everywhere. Riley was standing in the middle of it with a clipboard. There was a man with a camera filming her. She was talking about marble countertops and custom shelving. She saw me and stopped talking. The camera guy kept filming. I asked what was happening. She said they were renovating. I asked where mom and dad were. She said they were at work. I left and sat in my car for an hour. Then I drove to my dad's office. The receptionist said he was in a meeting. I waited. When he came out, I asked him to explain the kitchen. He said we should talk at home. We went back to Ashwood Heights. My mom was there by then. The workers were gone. Riley was in her room. We sat in the living room because the kitchen didn't exist anymore. I asked about the cancer treatment. My dad looked at my mom. My mom looked at the floor. No one said anything for a long time. Finally, my dad said there was no cancer. He said he never had cancer. He said they needed money for Riley's career. He said the kitchen renovation was part of a brand deal Riley was working on. He said a cooking equipment company was going to sponsor her if she had a professional kitchen to film in. He said the deal was worth $100,000 over 2 years. I asked why they didn't just tell me that. My mom said I wouldn't have understood. She said I always looked down on Riley's choices. She said they knew I would say no if they asked directly. She said they did what they had to do. I asked about the clinic pamphlets and the doctor's letters. My dad said he made them on his computer at work. He said it wasn't hard to fake letterhead. He said he was sorry but Riley's opportunity was time sensitive. Riley came downstairs. She said the brand deal required the kitchen to be finished by September. She said the company was sending a photographer in 2 weeks. She said this was her big break. She said I went to college and got my degree, so now it was her turn to get something. I asked if they planned to pay me back. My dad said the brand deal money would come in installments. He said they would pay me back once Riley's career took off. He said I should be happy for her. He said college degrees don't guarantee jobs anyway, but Riley had real potential. My mom said I was being selfish. She said I could go to medical school later. She said Riley's window was closing. She said I got to go to a good university and live in a nice dorm while Riley worked at a coffee shop. She said it was time for Riley to have opportunities too. I left. I drove back to my studio apartment. I didn't call them. I didn't text them. I just sat there and looked at my medical school deferral letter. The next week I logged into the family computer system remotely. My parents never changed the shared password. I found the brand deal contract in my dad's documents folder. The deal wasn't worth $100,000. It was worth $8,000 total. Riley would get free kitchen equipment and $8,000 in exchange for posting content for 6 months. The kitchen renovation cost $42,000. They spent my entire college fund plus $4,000 more on a kitchen for an $8,000 sponsorship. I applied for a transfer to my company's Manchester office. I didn't tell anyone. I sold my furniture. I closed my bank accounts and opened new ones. I packed 2 suitcases. 3 weeks later I texted my parents that I was safe and not to contact me. Then I got on a plane to England. I blocked all their numbers. I blocked Riley. I blocked everyone who might give them information about me. That was 3 years ago. Update 1. It's been 4 months since my original post. People asked me to update if anything happened. Something happened. My mom found me. She contacted the alumni office at Boston University and said there was a family emergency. She said my grandmother had a stroke. The alumni office gave her my email address. They weren't supposed to do that, but she was convincing. She sent me 17 emails in 2 days. I didn't read most of them. The subject lines were enough. Financial help needed. Please call. Your sister needs you. Family emergency, not a lie this time. I opened the last one. It was long. She said they lost Ashwood Heights. She said they were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in a bad part of town. She said my dad was working at a hardware store. She said she was cleaning houses. She said they were both 63 years old and couldn't keep up with the bills. She said Riley's brand deal fell through after 3 months. The company dropped her because her engagement numbers were too low. She said Riley tried to launch a cookbook but couldn't find a publisher. She said Riley was working at the same coffee shop she worked at before. My mom said they took out a second mortgage on Ashwood Heights to keep funding Riley's career. She said they believed in her. She said they took out personal loans too. She said when Riley's income didn't materialize they couldn't make the payments. She said the bank foreclosed on the house last year. She asked if I could send $500 a month. She said it would cover their rent. She said they wouldn't ask for more. She said I was doing well and they were struggling and it was only fair that I help. I didn't respond to the email. I blocked that address too. Riley called me 2 days later. I don't know how she got my new number. She said mom gave her my work number and she called the main line pretending to be a client. Someone transferred her to my extension. She said I was being cruel. She said they were my parents and I should care that they were suffering. She said none of this was her fault. She said she didn't ask them to lie about cancer. She said she didn't know about the college fund until after they already took it. I asked her if she knew before the kitchen was finished. She didn't answer. I asked her again. She said she found out a week before but the contractors were already working. She said she thought about telling me but mom said it would ruin everything. She said she was scared. I asked her about the Instagram post calling me a hero. She said mom told her to post it. She said mom wanted to make it harder for me to back out. I hung up. My manager called me into his office the next day. He said someone named Riley called the main line 8 times asking for me. He said she was crying and saying it was an emergency. He asked if I needed to take time off for a family situation. I said no. I changed my work number. I told HR to flag any calls from my family and not put them through. I filed paperwork to legally change my last name. It takes 6 months in the UK. My mom sent a letter to my apartment. I don't know how she got the address. The letter was 12 pages long. Most of it was about how much they sacrificed for me. She said they paid for my high school expenses. She said they let me live at home during college to save money. She said they drove me to campus whenever I needed a ride. She said I was being dramatic about the cancer lie. She said everything worked out fine for me anyway. She said I had a good job and a nice life in England while they were barely surviving. She said the least I could do was help them a little bit. The last page was different. She said my dad didn't want to contact me. She said he was too proud. She said he was ashamed of what they did. She said she was the one who pushed to reach out because they had no other options. She said they had already asked everyone else in the family for money and no one would help them anymore. That part stuck with me. I wondered who else they asked. I wondered what they told other people. I have a cousin in Boston named Eric. We were close when we were kids. I hadn't talked to him since I left. I sent him an email asking if he knew anything about my parents' situation. He responded in an hour. He said my parents asked him for $5,000 last year. They said they needed it for medical bills. He lent it to them. They never paid him back. He said when he asked about repayment my dad stopped returning his calls. Eric said he talked to other relatives. My dad's brother lent them $3,000 for what they said was a car repair. My mom's sister gave them $2,000 for what they said was a furnace replacement. None of it was paid back. Eric said he heard from a neighbor that Ashwood Heights was foreclosed on but he didn't know the details. He asked if I knew what happened. I told him everything. The cancer lie. The college fund. The kitchen. The brand deal that wasn't worth anything. He said he should have known something was wrong. He said my parents always had an excuse for needing money. He said he felt stupid for believing them. I asked if anyone told Riley about the family loans. He said Riley probably knew. He said she was living with our parents in their apartment. He said she was still posting on Instagram about launching her influencer career. I looked at Riley's Instagram. She had 847 followers. Her last post was from 2 weeks ago. It was a picture of avocado toast. The caption said she was taking a social media break to focus on her mental health and her upcoming projects. The comments were all from our mom's friends saying they were proud of her. I closed Instagram. I sat in my apartment for a long time doing nothing. My girlfriend asked if I was okay. I told her about the emails and the calls and the letter. She asked if I wanted to send them money. I said no. She said that was okay. She didn't push. I'm not sending them anything. They lied about cancer. They stole my future. They tried to manipulate me again when they ran out of money. I don't care that they're struggling. I don't care that my dad is working at a hardware store. They made their choices. But I keep thinking about Eric and my uncle and my aunt. I keep thinking about how many people they scammed. I keep thinking about what else they might have lied about. Update 2. It's been 6 weeks since my last update. Things got worse. Riley called me from a police station in Boston. The call came through because it was from an official police line and HR didn't have it flagged. She said she needed help. She said she was arrested. I asked what she did. She said she didn't do anything. She said she just found out what our parents did to her. She said she applied for an apartment last month. The application was denied because of her credit report. She had never checked her credit before. When she pulled the report she found 15 credit cards she never opened. She found 3 personal loans she never took out. She found a car lease she never signed. All of it was in her name. All of it was open between 2019 and 2023. All of it was maxed out or in default. She owed $73,000. She confronted our parents. They said they opened the accounts to help with Riley's business expenses. They said they were going to pay everything off once Riley started making money. Riley said none of the money went to her business. She asked where it went. My mom said they needed it for household expenses. My dad said they had to keep up appearances while building Riley's brand. Riley filed a police report for identity theft. That's why she was at the station. The police told her our parents could be arrested. She called me because she didn't know what else to do. I asked if she wanted our parents to be arrested. She said she didn't know. She said she couldn't afford $73,000 in debt. She said her credit was destroyed. She said she couldn't get an apartment or a car loan or anything. She said the police told her the only way to clear the debt was to prosecute our parents for fraud. I asked if our parents knew she filed the report. She said yes. She said they called her a traitor. She said my mom told her she was destroying the family. She said my dad said he never should have spent money on her in the first place. Riley said she went back to their apartment to get her things. They had changed the locks. Her stuff was in trash bags on the sidewalk. Our mom told her through the door that she was no longer welcome. Our dad yelled that she was just like me. Riley asked if she could stay with me in Manchester. She said she had no money for a hotel. She said all her accounts were frozen because of the identity theft investigation. She said she couldn't stay with friends because she didn't have friends anymore. She said everyone stopped talking to her when they realized she wasn't going to be famous. I said I would pay for a flight. I sent her money for a ticket and told her to book it for the next day. She arrived at Manchester Airport looking like she hadn't slept in a week. Her hair was dirty. Her clothes didn't match. She had one suitcase and a backpack. We drove to my apartment. She didn't talk much in the car. My girlfriend made dinner. Riley ate 3 plates. She said she hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. She said after our parents locked her out she slept on a friend's couch but the friend asked her to leave after one night. Riley said she never wanted the kitchen renovation. She said our parents told her the brand deal required it. She said she thought the deal was legitimate. She said she didn't know they used my college fund until after the kitchen was finished. She said when she found out she tried to talk to them about paying me back but they said I was being dramatic. I asked about the Instagram post calling me a hero. Riley said mom wrote the post. She said mom made her post it and tag me. She said mom told her it would lock me into the decision if other people knew about it. Riley said the brand deal fell apart because the company realized she didn't have enough followers. She said the company asked for their free equipment back. She said our parents had already sold some of it to pay bills. She said the company threatened to sue but never followed through. After the brand deal failed, Riley tried to keep the career going. Our parents kept telling her she just needed better equipment and better lighting and better editing. They kept spending money. They took out the second mortgage. They took out personal loans from 3 different banks. Riley said she didn't know about any of it until the foreclosure notice came. She said after they lost Ashwood Heights she wanted to get a regular job. Our parents said that would be giving up on her dreams. They said she was so close to making it. They kept pushing her to make more content. She kept posting on Instagram even though almost no one was watching. Riley said she finally looked at the numbers last month. She had 847 followers. Most of them were our mom's friends. Her posts got an average of 30 likes. She had been doing this for 6 years. She said she felt stupid. She said she wasted her 20s. She said she dropped out of college for nothing. She said our parents convinced her she was special but she was just their excuse to spend money they didn't have. I asked why they opened credit cards in her name. She said they told her it was to build her credit history. She signed some papers when she was 19. She didn't read them. They told her it was normal paperwork for business accounts. She trusted them. My girlfriend asked if Riley wanted to pursue the charges. Riley said yes. She said she couldn't live with $73,000 in debt. She said the detective told her the case was strong because there was clear evidence of fraud. She said our parents signed her name on multiple documents. She said some of the accounts were opened when she was still 17. The detective called me 3 days later. He said he was investigating my parents for multiple counts of identity theft and fraud. He said Riley's case was part of a larger pattern. He asked if I experienced anything similar. I told him about the cancer lie and the college fund. He asked if I had any documentation. I said I had emails from the fund administrator showing the transfer. He asked me to send them. He said they might add to the case. I asked what else they found. He said they were looking into other family members who lent money under false pretenses. He said my uncle and my aunt both filed complaints. He said there might be more victims. Then the detective said something that made me sit down. He said they found evidence my parents used the cancer lie on someone else. My dad's aunt died 2 years ago. Before she died, she gave my parents $12,000 for what they said was cancer treatment. She died thinking she helped save my dad's life. The detective said my dad's cousin was the one who brought this up. The cousin was the executor of the aunt's estate. He found a check made out to my dad with cancer treatment written in the memo line. He asked my dad about it after the aunt died. My dad said the treatment was successful. The cousin only recently found out there was never any cancer. He filed a police report last week. I asked the detective what would happen to my parents. He said if they were charged with everything, they were looking at multiple felonies. He said identity theft of a minor carries serious penalty. He said fraud against an elderly person carries additional penalties. He said they could be looking at several years in prison. Riley was sitting next to me during the call. When I hung up she asked what the detective said. I told her. She put her face in her hands and stayed like that for a long time. She said she didn't think it would go this far. She said she just wanted the debt cleared. She didn't want our parents to go to prison. I said they did this to themselves. Riley is still staying with me. We haven't talked about how long she'll be here. My girlfriend is being patient but the apartment is small. Riley spends most of her time applying for jobs. She put her Instagram account on private. She deleted most of her posts. My parents haven't tried to contact me since Riley filed the report. I don't know if they know where she is. I don't know if they care. Update 3. It's been 3 months since my last update. The legal situation is resolved. My parents were arrested in December. They were charged with identity theft, fraud, and elder abuse related to the situation with my dad's aunt. Riley's case was the main one, but the charges kept expanding as more people came forward. My uncle and my aunt pressed charges for the loans. Eric pressed charges. My dad's cousin pressed charges for the money taken from his mother. The district attorney said this was a pattern of behavior going back at least 5 years. My parents tried to fight the charges at first. They hired a lawyer who argued that family loans aren't fraud and that Riley knew about the credit accounts. The lawyer said Riley was just mad because her career didn't work out. Then the prosecutor showed the documents. The credit applications had Riley's forged signature. Some were opened when she was underage. The account statements showed the money was spent on household expenses and luxury items, not business costs. There were dozens of charges at restaurants and furniture stores and clothing shops. The lawyer reviewed the evidence and told my parents to take a plea deal. They refused. They said they were being persecuted by their own children. The case went to trial in January. It lasted 4 days. Riley had to testify. I didn't go to Boston for it, but she called me every night. She said our mom cried on the stand. She said our dad kept insisting everything he did was for the family. She said the prosecutor showed the jury a timeline of lies. The cancer story for me. The cancer story for the aunt. The false reasons for loans from relatives. The forged documents in Riley's name. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found my parents guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced them in February. My dad got 4 years in prison. My mom got 3 years. They were also ordered to pay restitution to everyone they defrauded. The total amount is over $140,000. They have no way to pay it. The state will garnish their wages when they get out, but it will take decades to repay even a fraction. Riley's debt was discharged. The credit card companies and loan servicers removed the fraudulent accounts from her record. Her credit score is still recovering, but she's not liable for the $73,000 anymore. She got a job at a medical supply company doing administrative work. It's not glamorous, but it pays enough for her to get her own apartment. She's moving out next month. My girlfriend is relieved. 3 months of Riley on our couch was a long time. Riley shut down her Instagram completely. She said she can't look at it without feeling sick. She said she wasted 6 years trying to be something she was never going to be. She said our parents convinced her she was special, but she was just their project. I didn't say anything to that. Eric reached out last month. He said the rest of the family is split on what happened. Some people think Riley and I are vindictive. Some people think our parents got what they deserved. My dad's cousin said his mother died thinking she helped save a life when really she was just scammed. He said he's glad they're in prison. I'm not glad. I'm not anything. They're in prison and Ashwood Heights is gone and the family is broken and none of it fixed what they did to me. I still don't have my college fund. I still had to defer medical school. I still lost 3 years of my life because they lied. Riley and I don't talk much even though she's been living here. We're polite. We eat dinner together sometimes. But we're not close. We never were. She was the favorite and I was the backup plan, and that doesn't change just because we both got hurt. She asked me last week if I'm going to visit them in prison. I said no. She said she's not going either. She said our mom keeps writing her letters asking for forgiveness. Riley said she reads them and then puts them in a drawer. She doesn't respond. I got accepted to medical school again. A different program this time in Manchester. I start in September. It took me 4 years instead of 1, but I'm doing it. I'm paying for it with student loans because I don't have another choice. People asked me in the first post if I regret leaving. I don't. If I had stayed in Boston they would have taken more. They would have found other ways to use me. Riley said our dad was asking her for my banking information last year. He told her he wanted to send me a gift. She didn't give it to him, but it's clear what he was planning. Manchester is quiet. The weather is terrible, but I have a good job and a girlfriend who doesn't ask too many questions and an apartment that's mine. Riley will be gone soon and it will just be me and my life again. My parents are in prison. Riley is starting over with nothing. The family I grew up with doesn't exist anymore. I'm supposed to feel something about that, but I don't. I just feel tired. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My sister's boyfriend abandoned her in a parking lot on a hot summer day. Then when my fiancé and I rushed 45 minutes to rescue her, we found them together acting like nothing happened, and her boyfriend threatened to put my fiancé in the ground for confronting him about his behavior last Friday. What should have been a normal summer afternoon turned into a complete disaster. I drove 45 minutes in a panic to rescue my sister, who had been abandoned in a store parking lot by her boyfriend, only to find them both standing in his garage acting like nothing happened. This has been a pattern with them for years, but now it's affecting my relationship with my fiancé, threatening my wedding plans, and ruining our family dynamics. I've always been the type to wear my heart on my sleeve. Everything affects me deeply, and I've always had a hard time letting things go. My sister Tara is the complete opposite. She's 2 years older than me, and she's always been the tough one. Since we were little, we've had this pattern. We'd fight about something, walk away from each other, and then come back later like nothing happened. Tara has always been proud of this. She's mentioned many times how great it is that we can fight and then just move on. When I was younger, I didn't think much about it. But now at 21, I'm starting to see how unhealthy this is. We never actually resolve anything. Problems just get stuffed down and ignored until they explode later. Tara has always had trouble saying sorry for anything. She just expects everyone to forget what happened and move on. I've been with my fiancé Mark for about a year and a half now. We got engaged 2 months ago. He's 22, very quiet around my family, and honestly, he doesn't share many interests with them. When we visit my family, he barely speaks. I never thought much of it until recently. Tara has been with her boyfriend Jake for 5 years. Their relationship has always been rocky. I've seen him shove her during arguments, heard him call her terrible names, and once even saw him put his hand over her mouth to stop her from talking during a fight. Despite all this, she stays with him and defends him constantly. Jake has always had a problem with dragging me into their fights. He'll call me to complain about Tara or to get me to take his side. It's been going on for years, and I've always just dealt with it to keep the peace. Last Friday, Mark and I were at his parents' house celebrating his dad's birthday. I was living with Tara at the time while finishing up some classes. Around 3 p.m., Jake called my phone. He told me that Tara's purse and laundry were sitting outside if she wanted them. He hung up before I could ask any questions. I was confused but not surprised. This wasn't the first time he'd pulled me into one of their arguments. About 10 minutes later, Tara called me. She was crying and told me that she and Jake had gotten into a huge fight while running errands. He had pulled into a store parking lot, told her to get out, and then driven off, leaving her with nothing but her cell phone on a hot summer day. She asked if I could give her a ride to Jake's house to get her things. I immediately offered to leave Mark's parents' house and come get her, or to let her use my spare car that was at our apartment. Tara told me not to worry about it right now and to enjoy the party. She said I could help her when I got home later. She specifically said, "Don't worry about rushing back, I don't want to ruin your day." I misunderstood this as her saying she was okay for now and would call me if she needed immediate help. Looking back, I think she expected me to drop everything and come anyway, despite what she actually said. A few hours passed, and I hadn't heard anything more from Tara. I assumed she had figured things out or gotten back to the apartment somehow. This had happened before. They'd have a big fight, and then make up within hours. Around 6 p.m., my phone started blowing up with texts from Tara. Then she called, crying and furious, saying she had been waiting for me the whole time. Mark and I immediately left his parents' house to go pick her up. Just as we were getting to the car, Jake called me. He yelled that I was a terrible sister for leaving Tara stranded for hours. He hung up before I could explain. I started crying in the car. Mark was silent the entire 45-minute drive, but I could tell he was fuming. I'd never seen him that angry before. When we got to Jake's neighborhood, we first checked his house, then drove to our apartment to see if Tara was there, then back to Jake's. We finally found them both standing in Jake's open garage, talking calmly like nothing had happened. I got out of the car and tried to apologize to Tara for misunderstanding the situation. She didn't say anything. I suggested we talk about it later and asked if she was coming home. Mark was still incredibly angry. He stepped out of the car and started yelling at Jake about how he couldn't treat people this way. Jake told Mark to get off his property or he'd put him in the ground and that Mark was lucky she's here or you'd already be dead. Mark and I left immediately and went back to his place. The next few months were tense. I moved out of the apartment Tara and I shared to start school. Tara and I had a massive argument, and we didn't speak for almost 3 months. Then, about 4 months ago, we met up for coffee. Tara acted like nothing had happened, just like she always does. She didn't mention our fight or the incident with Jake. She just started talking about normal things like we'd seen each other yesterday. I went along with it because I didn't want to cause more problems. I figured if I brought it up again, she'd just get angry, and we'd stop talking again. When I told Tara about my engagement to Mark, her response was to tell me to go F myself. I was hurt, but I didn't confront her about it at the time. A few weeks ago, Tara, Jake, Mark, my other sister and her boyfriend, and I all went out to dinner. We had gift cards to use at the restaurant. Mark was quiet the entire time, as usual when he's around my family. Jake kept making little comments about Mark not talking. Mark and I were careful to order inexpensive items since we're saving for our wedding, while Tara and Jake ordered appetizers and many drinks. When the bill came, everyone suggested splitting it 3 ways between the couples. Mark, who hadn't expected this, hesitantly said he didn't want to pay for food and drinks he hadn't ordered. There was an awkward moment, but we ended up paying just for what we ordered. No one complained at the time. Then, 2 weeks later, Jake texted me out of nowhere criticizing Mark for being cheap and disrespectful at dinner. I texted back that if he had a problem with Mark, he should talk to him directly. Jake never responded. I talked to Tara about Jake's text a few days later. Instead of addressing Jake's behavior, she criticized Mark, saying he was too quiet and didn't make an effort to get to know them. She said it seemed like he was just there out of obligation. When I told Mark what Tara said, he admitted it was partly true. He said he was still angry about how Jake treated me during the parking lot incident and how Tara never acknowledged any problem with it. He was also uncomfortable with how Jake treated Tara in general. I texted Tara suggesting the four of us meet to talk things out. I wanted to give Mark a chance to explain his side and why he felt uncomfortable. Tara refused, saying she didn't think it would help. She said Mark and Jake just had different personalities and that Mark needed to adjust his behavior. I gave her Mark's phone number, with his permission, but I doubt she ever saved it. Now here's my problem. Mark and I are planning our wedding for next spring. Tara basically appointed herself as my maid of honor, and I agreed to avoid an awkward situation. But Mark is uncomfortable having Jake at our wedding after everything that's happened, especially his threat. If Tara is my maid of honor, I feel like I have to invite Jake too. I feel stuck. There's this huge wall between Mark and Tara, and even between Tara and me. We could easily talk it out, but Tara refuses. She complains about Mark's attitude but won't give him a chance to explain. Mark is still upset about how Jake treated me, how Tara treated me, and how Jake treats Tara in general. I think part of the problem is that Tara and Jake have this forgive and forget method of dealing with things. It's the only way their toxic relationship can continue. If they actually address their problems, they'd have to break up. What do I do? Is it my job to fix this? Is it even worth trying, or should I just keep things surface level with my sister? I want everyone to get along, especially before my wedding, but I don't know if that's possible. Update 1. I want to thank everyone who responded to my post. After reading your advice, I decided to address the maid of honor situation directly with Tara. I texted her last Wednesday saying I wasn't comfortable with her being my maid of honor because she doesn't respect Mark and the fact that we're getting married. I tried to be honest but kind. Tara didn't respond to my text all day. Instead, she posted a quote on Facebook that said, "It's okay to be angry, but it's never okay to be cruel." That evening, Jake texted me, calling Mark a horrible name and saying that if Mark had a problem with him, he should talk to him directly. This was rich coming from Jake, who had done the exact same thing to Mark just weeks ago when he texted me about the restaurant bill instead of talking to Mark directly. It was clear Tara still didn't see any problem with her behavior. The next morning, after still not getting a direct response from her, I texted her again. I said, "You know, the problem isn't just between Mark and Jake, it's between you and me. I think there's some resentment built up, and I don't like the way we handle conflict." Her response? "You are living in a world of delusion and that's all I have to say to you." I was shocked but not surprised. This is classic Tara: deflect, attack, and refuse to engage. A few days later, I visited my parents and casually mentioned the conflict with Tara. Later that day, my mom called to relay a message from Tara. "Tara never said you and Mark shouldn't get married." This immediately frustrated me because I had never claimed Tara said that. I texted Tara to clarify, "I never said you told me Mark and I shouldn't get married. I said you don't respect Mark or our future marriage. When I told you I was engaged, you told me to go F myself. I don't expect you to be ecstatic, but maybe a little more support than that. I don't think it's too much to ask that you aren't my maid of honor after you reacted that way." Tara exploded. She claimed she told me to go F myself because I had lied to people about her not talking to me when it was the other way around. She said, "If you expect me to say something nice to you after lying to everyone, you are out of your mind." She went on to say everything was my fault and that I needed to stop playing the victim. She claimed she had repeatedly tried to fix things, but all I ever did was cry, blow her off, or say I would try to change. I pointed out that during the period she claimed I lied about her not talking to me, she hadn't responded to my messages. Instead, she posted on Facebook and talked to Jake and our mom when she could have easily talked to me directly. I reminded her that she never tries to actually fix anything. She just tells me all the reasons I'm wrong, never admits any fault, and then expects me to be okay with it. I told her this was exactly what I meant by built-up resentment. I added, "I never said I wasn't at fault for anything. I just don't understand why you think you're invulnerable to any kind of blame or criticism." Her final messages were, "You don't get it. You're never going to get it." She accused me of always turning everything around on her and making it her fault when nothing was. She claimed several people disapprove of Mark. I don't care who these mystery people are, and she never sought approval for Jake anyway. She said she's the only one that has enough respect for me to say so. She claimed I've changed into a totally different person since meeting Mark. Her last text was, "Have fun at your wedding." I haven't responded, and I don't know if I will. Tara obviously doesn't see any fault in what she did and will never apologize or change. Whenever I've told her in the past that I didn't like something she'd done, she would tell me I need to stop trying to change who she is and that I'm being too sensitive. I've decided not to send Tara an invitation to the wedding. I'm talking to a good friend about being my maid of honor instead. This wedding will be better without Tara's influence. I plan to have limited contact with her moving forward. I'm worried about how my parents will react when they find out Tara isn't invited to the wedding. My mom didn't want to get involved initially because she said we're grown adults, but Tara sees our parents weekly and will likely complain to them. I hope they don't boycott the wedding, but I need to do what's best for Mark and me. I haven't said anything to my other siblings since this is between Tara and me. I still have time to explain my decision to the rest of my family if needed. I'm seeing some signs of narcissism in Tara's behavior, though I'm not trying to diagnose her. She never takes responsibility, twists situations to make herself the victim, and can't handle any criticism. I know I could have handled some things better, like talking to her in person instead of texting. But considering how she handles criticism or heated discussions, I'm not sure it would have made a difference. I've blocked Jake's number, so at least I won't have to deal with his texts and calls anymore. My original choice for maid of honor declined, saying she didn't want to feel like she had a red target on her face and felt it would create an awkward situation with my family. But I have a few other friends I can ask, and the wedding isn't for several months, so there's no rush. For now, I'm focusing on planning a wedding that feels comfortable and happy for Mark and me. I refuse to have people there who don't support our relationship. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. The wedding planning is moving forward, but family tensions have escalated in ways I didn't expect. About a month after my last update, my parents invited me over for dinner. I should have known something was up because they rarely invite me over specifically. When I arrived, Tara was sitting at the dining table. They had staged an intervention to try to get us to make up before the wedding. My parents explained that they couldn't bear the thought of their daughter not being at her sister's wedding, and they wanted us to work things out. Tara sat silently with her arms crossed. When I asked if this was her idea, my mom admitted that she and my dad had arranged it, but Tara had agreed to come. My dad then pulled out some news clippings about family feuds that lasted decades because of small disagreements. He said he didn't want that to happen to our family. My mom started crying, saying she had always imagined both her daughters at each other's weddings. I tried to explain that this wasn't about a small disagreement. It was about years of toxic behavior and Tara's refusal to acknowledge any problems or have a real conversation about them. My parents kept repeating that blood is thicker than water and we needed to stick together as a family. When I looked at Tara, she simply said she was only there because our parents asked her to come. She wasn't going to apologize for anything, and she still thought I was delusional. I left their house feeling ambushed and even more certain of my decision. The next day, my other sister Lindsay called me. Our parents had apparently called her to convince me to invite Tara to the wedding. Lindsay surprised me by saying she understood my position. She revealed that Tara had been talking badly about me and Mark to everyone in the family, claiming we were rude, selfish, and thought we were better than everyone. Lindsay also told me something I hadn't known. During the 3 months Tara and I weren't speaking after the parking lot incident, Tara had been telling everyone that I was avoiding her because Mark didn't approve of our relationship. She completely rewrote what happened to make herself the victim. 2 weeks later, I received a wedding invitation addressed to Mark and me. It was from Tara and Jake. They were apparently getting married in a small ceremony next month, just 6 weeks before my wedding date. The invitation came with a note saying they hoped we could put aside our differences to celebrate their special day. I was stunned. Tara had never once mentioned being engaged or planning a wedding during all our arguments. I called my mom, who confirmed that Tara and Jake had gotten engaged a while ago but had been keeping it quiet. According to my mom, they decided to have their wedding before mine because Jake's grandmother was ill and they wanted her to be there. I had a long talk with Mark about whether we should attend their wedding. He was reluctant but said he would go if it was important to me. I decided to go without him, feeling it might be a step toward resolving things. I RSVP'd for just myself, explaining that Mark had a prior commitment but sending our congratulations. Tara texted me immediately, asking why Mark wasn't coming and saying it looked petty for him to skip her wedding when she was making an effort by inviting us. I explained that Mark genuinely had plans he couldn't change, but she didn't believe me. The day before Tara's wedding, my mom called to tell me that Tara had decided I couldn't come to the wedding without Mark because it would look bad in photos and raise questions. She suggested I convince Mark to change his plans or not come at all. I was done. I told my mom I wouldn't be attending and sent Tara a simple text wishing her a nice wedding. I didn't hear back. The morning after Tara's wedding, my dad called to tell me I had really hurt Tara by not attending her special day and that I needed to apologize if I wanted to fix our relationship. When I reminded him that Tara had uninvited me, he claimed that wasn't true, she had just hoped Mark would come too. At this point, I realized my family was getting a completely different version of events than what was actually happening. I'm still not inviting Tara to my wedding, and I've decided to limit what I share with my parents about the planning process since they relay everything to Tara. Mark and I have found an amazing venue that requires a smaller guest list, which has actually been a blessing. My friend Megan has agreed to be my maid of honor, and she's been incredibly supportive. The wedding is now just 3 months away, and despite all the family drama, I'm excited about our future together. Update 3. It's been a month since Mark and I got married, and I wanted to share how everything turned out. Our wedding day was beautiful and peaceful, exactly what we wanted. We kept the guest list to 50 people, mostly close friends and family who genuinely support us. My friend Megan was an amazing maid of honor, and my sister Lindsay attended with her boyfriend. My parents came, though they were noticeably subdued during the ceremony and reception. Tara and Jake did not attend, of course. The week before the wedding, Tara sent me a long email listing all the ways I had hurt her over the years and how I had turned the family against her by not attending her wedding. She said she was extending an olive branch by letting me know she forgave me, but she couldn't support a marriage that was built on tearing other people down. I didn't respond to the email. There was nothing to say at that point. On our wedding day, Jake actually texted Mark congratulating him and saying he hoped they could all move past the drama someday. Mark showed me the text but didn't respond. It felt like another manipulation tactic. They could later claim they had tried to reconcile while we ignored them. The most surprising turn of events happened 3 weeks after our wedding. Lindsay called to tell me that Tara and Jake had announced they were moving across the country for Jake's new job. They were leaving in 2 weeks. My parents organized a going away dinner and invited all of us. Mark and I decided to attend, thinking it might be easier to be civil knowing they were moving far away. The dinner was tense but polite. Tara and I barely spoke directly to each other, and Mark and Jake kept to opposite sides of the table. My parents seemed relieved that we were all in the same room without arguing. As everyone was leaving, Tara pulled me aside. She told me she hoped I was happy with the family I chose and that maybe the distance would be good for everyone. There was no apology or acknowledgement of anything that had happened, just a final passive-aggressive comment. I've thought a lot about whether I could have handled things differently with Tara. Maybe I could have been more direct earlier on instead of going along with her forgive and forget approach for so many years. Maybe I could have set better boundaries with Jake from the beginning. But I also recognize that Tara and Jake's behavior was their responsibility, not mine. Since they moved away, I've had several conversations with my parents about how we communicate as a family. I explained how hurtful it was when they would take Tara's version of events without hearing mine, and how their intervention felt like an ambush rather than support. They admitted they had a harder time standing up to Tara because she was more confrontational, and they often took the path of least resistance. My dad recently told me that Tara and Jake are having problems in their new location. Jake is unhappy with his job, and they're fighting more than usual. My dad seemed to be fishing for sympathy from me, but I simply said I hope they work things out. Mark and I are focused on our new life together. We bought a small house near our jobs and are talking about starting a family in a year or 2. I talk to Lindsay regularly, and my relationship with my parents is slowly improving now that they're not constantly trying to mediate between Tara and me. I've limited my contact with Tara to occasional texts on birthdays and holidays. We're not close, and I don't know if we ever will be again. But the constant drama and hurt feelings are gone, and that's a relief. Sometimes family relationships can't be fixed, at least not in the way we hope. I've accepted that Tara and I will probably never have the close sister relationship I once wanted. Instead, I'm focusing on building healthy relationships with people who respect boundaries and can communicate honestly. That includes the family I was born into and the family I'm creating with Mark. Thank you to everyone who offered advice throughout this journey. It helped me stay strong when I was doubting myself and gave me perspective when I needed it most.